We've looked at amazing archaeological finds a lot of times on this channel, but in this video we're going to look at spooky archaeological finds instead. Now that doesn't mean the finds are trash or should have been left buried forever. Instead, we're talking about discoveries that came with a dark edge, creepy secrets, unsettling histories, and a whole lot of ancient unease. It's still the same thrilling journey through lost worlds and forgotten ruins you're used to, but this time, it's wrapped in shadow, shivers, and just a hint of horror. Let's start off this countdown with number 15, the first recorded boomerang victim. Well, boomerangs may look playful, but in the hands of Aboriginal warriors, they were deadly. In 2014, a chilling discovery along the Darling River in Australia's Torrell National Park revealed a skeleton later named Kakucha, which means older brother in Bakanchi. Aboriginal man William Bates recognized it as one of his ancestors. A deep gash ran from Kakucha's right eye down to his jaw, initially believed to be caused by a colonial-era iron weapon. But further analysis by Griffith University paleoanthropologist Michael Westaway flipped that theory totally. Kakucha had died nearly 500 years before European contact, around 1260 to 1280 AD. And the damage wasn't from steel, it was inflicted by wooden weapons. Multiple wounds matched the shape of a lil club, and that massive gash, that was the brutal work of a battle boomerang. His body was found curled on his side, mouth agape, a frozen portrait of a violent death. It remains one of the most haunting early forensic records of Aboriginal warfare in Australian history. Number 14. The Golden Mask. The Golden Mask of Tutankhamun is one of the most iconic artifacts on Earth. But the story behind it might not be as clear as we once thought. When Howard Carter cracked open the young pharaoh's tomb a century ago, the mask was hailed as the crown jewel of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. But according to Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves, this legendary mask may not have been made for Tutankhamun at all. After studying the 3,300-year-old artifact for decades, Reeves found that the inscription dedicating the mask to Tutankhamun had been carved over older hieroglyphs. Those original words are a glowing tribute to Nefertiti, his mom. The earlier inscription reads, "Living manifestation of the sun god, beloved of Akhenaten, beauty of beauties," phrases linked to Nefertiti, never to Tutankhamun. It raises serious questions. Was the boy king buried in his mother's mask? If so, it paints a new picture of a rushed burial, royal drama, or even political cover-up. The face of a king might just belong to a queen. Number 13. Skull Tower. In the Serbian city of Niš stands a monument unlike any other, the Skull Tower. Built in 1809 under orders from Ottoman General Huršid Pasha, the tower was assembled using the skulls of 952 Serbian rebels who had fought and died during the Battle of Chegar. Their commander Stevan Sinelić chose to ignite his own gunpowder stores rather than surrender, killing himself and his men, and many Ottoman soldiers in the process. The tower was Pasha's revenge. Each skull was embedded in mortar as a message, resist, and this is your fate. But instead of scaring future rebels, it fueled their resolve. Just 6 years later, the Serbs rose again and pushed the Ottomans out. Today, only 58 skulls remain, preserved inside a chapel built to protect what's left of this grim structure. It's not a forgotten relic, it's a reminder. A brutal chapter in a long fight for freedom, carved into stone and bone, still standing in the heart of the Balkans. Did it scare you? Number 12. Herxheim cannibalism. The Neolithic settlement of Herxheim in Germany looked like a model Stone Age community, with well-planned homes, cultivated fields, and a peaceful location. But the site holds a super disturbing secret. Sometime around 4950 BCE, the settlement was suddenly abandoned. Left behind were piles of human bones, smashed skulls, broken pottery, and clear signs of butchery. In 2009, detailed studies of the remains revealed what many had feared, evidence of systematic cannibalism. Tool marks on bones showed where flesh had been scraped away, long bones were deliberately broken, likely to access the marrow. Skulls were cracked open in ways that don't happen by accident. Herxheim wasn't wiped out by disease or war. It fell into something far more disturbing. Whether the acts were part of ritual sacrifice or desperate survival is still debated, but either way, the archaeological record doesn't lie. This was organized, repeated, and chilling. Whatever caused this shift from farmers to flesh-eaters remains one of the darkest mysteries in prehistoric Europe. Well, how can humans eat another human? That's gross. Number 11. Tree babies. Well, if that's not scary, we don't know what is. In Tanah Toraja, South Sulawesi, death doesn't separate the youngest from nature, it returns them to it. Here, the bodies of babies who died before teething are buried inside trees, not near the trees. Inside them, locals carve out small hollows in the trunks, wrap the infants in cloth, and seal the openings with wooden covers. Over time, villagers believe the tree absorbs the baby's spirit, growing around the opening and keeping the soul close. Each tree might hold dozens of these tiny graves, marked only by weathered scars and patchy repairs in the bark. To outsiders, it might seem eerie, but in this community, it's sacred. It's part of a broader tradition where the dead aren't forgotten or hidden away. In fact, it's common for families to exhume their ancestors, redress their remains, and take them for a ceremonial walk through the village. It's a world where death isn't final, where trees cradle innocence, and where the boundary between life and afterlife grows soft as bark. Number 10. Hospital Cemetery. In 2015, researchers from St. John's College, Cambridge, thought they were just digging up campus grounds. Instead, they unearthed the silent resting place of over 1,000 people. Beneath the university sat a long-lost cemetery, used from the 13th to the 15th century, likely linked to a hospital for impoverished scholars. Around 1,300 skeletons were uncovered, over 400 of them still whole. Though the college knew a burial site existed thanks to mid-25th century records, no one anticipated the scale or grim condition. Most of the dead weren't buried in coffins. Many had no burial shrouds. Some were simply laid in the dirt, forgotten entirely. Even more unsettling is that there was no evidence of a mass plague or illness. Nothing. These weren't victims of disease. They were people who faded into history without fanfare, left behind by the institution that once may have cared for them. Their bones tell a quiet story of academia's shadow side, where knowledge and poverty, prestige and neglect, coexisted beneath the same roof. Number 9. Curse of the Dancer. In the 1950s, archaeologists digging through the ruins of a Roman theater in Caesarea Maritima came across a small lead tablet inscribed with strange symbols. Dated to around 1,500 years ago, the tablet puzzled scholars for decades. Then, in 2019, computer-assisted analysis finally decoded its grim content. It wasn't a dedication or a blessing, it was a curse. The tablet was directed at a man named Mana, likely a dancer, and it was filled with dark intentions. The writer called upon demonic forces to tie Mana's feet, blind his eyes, bind his limbs, and stop him from dancing. The ancient Egyptian god Thoth, associated with magic and judgment, was even invoked to lend power to the spell. Scholars believe this was no random act of hate. It might have been the work of a rival dancer, jealous or bitter, using ancient rituals to sabotage a performance. Even as Christianity spread across the region, it's clear that some people still turn to older, darker practices to settle scores. So again, it proves that our history is messy. Number 8. A man rose from the grave. A fierce storm hit northwest Ireland, close to the Atlantic coast. In May 2015, the wind didn't just uproot an old beech tree, it unearthed a secret buried beneath it. Entangled in the roots was a human skeleton, ripped in half by the fall. The remains belonged to a Gaelic male, aged around 17 to 20, who lived between 1030 and 1200 AD. The body had been buried in an east-west orientation, suggesting a proper Christian burial. But what caught archaeologists off guard were the clear signs of trauma, knife or blade wounds across his ribs and hands. At 5.8 feet tall, he was unusually tall for his time, hinting at a wealthier background with access to better food. Whether he died in combat, a duel, or something more personal remains unknown. What archaeologists do agree on is that the burial predates the Anglo-Norman invasion of Ireland in 1169, making him likely of native Irish descent. Death didn't end his story. A storm brought it back into the light. Number 7. Hell House Altar. Well, the very name says it all. The crumbling remains of St. Mary's College in Ellicott City, Maryland, have long carried a heavy reputation and a name to match. Locals call it the Hell House, and the altar that still stands behind its ruins hasn't helped shake that label. Built in 1868, the college was a religious seminary meant to train young men for the priesthood. But by 1972, the doors had closed for good due to dwindling enrollment. What came after was a different story. Urban explorers and thrill seekers began roaming the property. Then in 1997, a fire, likely started by trespassers, consumed most of the site. Yet somehow, the massive metal cross behind the old dome survived. Whispers of occult rituals, ghost sightings, and satanic worship have stuck around ever since. No one's captured concrete evidence of the paranormal, but the place has an energy that unsettles even the bravest. You won't find tourists here, just scorched stone, local legends, and the chilling silence of a place too stubborn to disappear. Number 6. Demons and Sickles. Our mythology has no shortage of monsters, demons, or evil spirits lurking in the shadows and out to get those still living. Medieval Europe is no exception, and this can clearly be seen in a 17th century cemetery in northwestern Poland. Since 2008, archaeologists excavating the burial ground near the village of Drosko have uncovered over 250 skeletons. Among them, 5 stood out, buried with iron sickles pressed against their necks or hips. 2 women in their 30s, a man in his 40s, a teenage girl, and an older woman had sickles positioned deliberately across their bodies. At first, theories of vampire burials emerged, but further analysis suggests these were apotropaic rituals aimed at preventing the dead from returning in spiritual form. Poland, during this period, was racked by famine, war, and disease. Even the devout leaned on folk beliefs when conventional answers failed. These sickles weren't meant to mutilate, but to protect both sides from restless spirits and demonic interference. The dead were still buried properly, but with a wary hedge against the unknown. Number 5. Face Down Nun. When archaeologists unearthed an old grave near Oxford in 2015, they didn't expect to find a nun buried face down. This wasn't random. In medieval Britain, burying someone that way was a statement one made when the dead had allegedly committed a serious sin. The woman was linked to the nearby Littlemore Priory, a nunnery founded in 1110. Records show the priory was eventually shut down in the 16th century amid allegations of scandalous behavior, particularly among its residents. Her grave was set apart from others and placed close to the priory, which only added to the suspicion that she was once a nun, and not one remembered kindly. Being buried face down was often a punishment reserved for accused witches or those thought to be morally corrupt. We don't know her name, but her grave speaks volumes. Whether she was a scapegoat, rebel, or victim of moral panic, her final resting position was no accident. It was a message from the living about how she should be remembered. Alright guys, now let's talk about number 4, bog bodies. Peat bogs don't just preserve history, they hold on to it like a secret. Across Europe, perfectly preserved human remains have been pulled from the earth, their skin, hair, and expressions still eerily intact after thousands of years. One of the most haunting examples is the Huldra Mose woman, discovered in Denmark in 1879. Her body dates back about 2,000 years. She was around 40 when she died, considered old in her time, and her death was far from peaceful. Evidence suggests she may have been a human sacrifice. Her garments and jewelry weren't casual. These were offerings. Ancient Danes believed that peat bogs were passageways to the gods, especially the deities who controlled iron ore. So, to keep the blessings flowing, they made sacrifices, sometimes animals, sometimes people. The Haudromose woman wasn't the only one. There are likely more bodies buried beneath the mossy surface, suspended in time, waiting. These aren't graves. They're offerings frozen between worlds in the cold, quiet grasp of the bog. Number 3. Royston Cave. Beneath the streets of Royston lies a chamber carved from chalk, covered wall to wall in religious imagery. Royston Cave. Discovered by chance in 1742 during construction work, the cave sits beneath a heavy stone slab, leading down a narrow shaft to a space just over 16 feet in diameter. Inside, carvings of knights, saints, biblical scenes, and obscure symbols stretch across the walls. Some scholars believe it was used by the Knights Templar, although dating it precisely has proven difficult. The style and content of the carvings suggest they may have been created any time between the 13th and 16th centuries. Among the Christian iconography, you'll also find pagan symbols like a Sheila na gig, an image linked to fertility rituals. The mix of beliefs etched into the walls has kept archaeologists guessing for decades. Whether it was a secret meeting place, a private chapel, or a chamber of ritual, no one knows for certain. What's clear is that whoever carved it had a goal and left behind a legacy wrapped in layers of words. Number 2. Women Sits Tombs. In October 2021, archaeologists in China's Hunan province unearthed 4 tombs, each remarkably preserved and filled with hundreds of grave goods. What stood out wasn't just the quality of the artifacts, but the identity of the deceased. 4 women buried across a 200-year span from the Eastern Han Dynasty into the Three Kingdoms period. Ceramics, bronze mirrors, silver pieces, and intricate glassware surrounded them, suggesting wealth or influence. But no written names or titles were found, leaving their exact roles unknown. The burial styles varied, hinting at evolving rituals or shifting status over generations. Little is known about the economic or social position of women in this era, so these tombs may help fill long-standing historical gaps. The range of items found, everyday objects alongside ornamental ones, suggests that whoever they were, they mattered. In the absence of records, the material tells the story, lives lived with importance, now slowly being pieced together by those who come across their silence centuries later. Number 1. Saqqara Sarcophagi. In October 2020, Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities revealed a staggering discovery: 59 sealed wooden sarcophagi found stacked in deep burial shafts near Saqqara, just south of Cairo. These coffins, dating back over 2,500 years, were astonishingly well preserved. Once opened, they revealed mummies wrapped in vibrant cloth and inscribed with hieroglyphs. Unlike royal tombs, these burials belonged to priests and high-ranking officials from Egypt's late period. The fact that the coffins were stacked rather than placed individually has raised questions among archaeologists, though no firm answers have emerged yet. Saqqara has always been a place of secrets. It's home to the step pyramid of Djoser and has long served as a sacred necropolis. This latest find continues a streak of major discoveries in the area. The scale of the burial, along with the artistry of the sarcophagi, shows the importance of the individuals inside, not kings perhaps, but powerful voices in the spiritual and political life of ancient Egypt. Well, we really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.